The kingdom of Moonshadow was never truly quiet. Even in peace, it felt like something dangerous was always breathing beneath the surface. And on this day, the sky itself seemed angry. Snow fell violently over the kingdom, turning the world into a white, endless storm. The wind screamed between tall palace towers like a warning no one wanted to hear. Guards tightened their cloaks. Horses struggled against frozen ground. And nobles, comfortably seated in heated carriages, watched the storm like it was nothing more than decoration. But for someone like Lena, the storm was not beauty. It was survival. Lena walked through the snow with her head lowered. Her hands were red. Her fingers numb. Her steps small but steady. She carried heavy palace supplies alone while others passed her like she was part of the wind. An Omega servant. Invisible. Replaceable. Unwanted. A noble carriage slowed beside her. The window opened. A woman inside looked down at Lena with cold disgust. "Move away. You're blocking the road." Lena quickly stepped aside. But the road was already frozen. Her foot slipped. She fell into the snow. The carriage stopped. For a moment. Silence. Then laughter. 2 guards laughed first. Then the noblewoman smiled. "Look at her, even the snow rejects her." Lena slowly pushed herself up. Snow stuck to her hair, her eyelashes, her shaking hands. No anger. No protest. Only silence. Because Omega girls like her were taught one thing from birth. Do not speak. Do not resist. Do not exist loudly. She gathered the dropped supplies with trembling hands. 1 box. Then another. Her breath came out like broken glass in the cold air. Inside her chest, something quietly hurt. But she buried it. Like always. The palace gates faded behind her as she walked deeper into the forest path. No one followed. No one cared. The wind became louder between the trees. The world felt emptier. Lena hugged the supplies closer to her chest. Just finish the task and go back. Her voice was barely a whisper. But then, a sound broke the storm. A cry. Soft. Broken. Desperate. Lena stopped. Her heart tightened. Another cry followed. Closer this time. She turned slowly. Between the trees. Something moved. A small shape. Lena stepped forward carefully. Her breath slowed. Snow cracked under her feet. And then she saw it. A wolf cub. Trapped under fallen branches. Its body trembled violently. Its eyes were wide with fear. It growled weakly the moment it saw her. A warning. A threat. Every instinct in Lena's body screamed. Run. But she didn't. Because those eyes. They were not cruel. They were scared. Just like hers used to be. Lena knelt slowly. The cub growled louder. "Sure," she whispered gently. "I won't hurt you." The cub snapped at her hand. She pulled back instantly. Blood formed on her skin. She looked at it. Then back at the cub. It was shaking. Not from anger. From pain. From fear. Something inside Lena broke quietly. "You're hurt," she said softly. "I understand." She reached again. This time slower. Careful. The cub snarled but didn't move away. Lena began lifting the branches. Heavy. Frozen. Pain shot through her arms. But she didn't stop. "I know what it feels like, to be trapped." Her voice shook. "But I won't leave you here." The cub trembled. Then, slowly, stopped resisting. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the last branch lifted. The cub collapsed forward. Lena caught it instantly. Warm fur against cold hands. It was so light. So fragile. "You're safe now," she whispered. The cub looked at her. Long. Deep. As if remembering something it had lost. Then, it leaned into her chest. Trusting her. Completely. Lena froze. A soft breath escaped her lips. "I didn't expect that." And she smiled. For the first time that day. Far away, between the trees. Something shifted. A figure stood still. Unmoving. Watching. Golden eyes cut through the storm like fire. Alpha King Kael. The most feared man in the kingdom. The ruler no one dared speak against. His expression did not change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. That cub, he murmured. It should have been impossible. That creature rejected everyone. Warriors, hunters, even royal healers. Yet now, it lay calmly in the arms of an Omega servant. Kael stepped forward silently. Snow did not touch him the same way. The forest seemed to hold its breath around him. He watched Lena carefully. She was speaking softly to the cub, tearing cloth from her sleeve, wrapping its injured leg. Her movements were slow, careful, almost loving. Kael's gaze sharpened. No fear, no hesitation. Most people either feared power, or chased it. But this girl, she did neither. That made her dangerous. Or interesting. He wasn't sure which yet. Lena stood slowly with the cub in her arms. It's okay. I'll take you somewhere safe. The cub did not resist. It stayed pressed against her chest. Warm. Alive. Trusting. Kael observed every second. Every detail. Every breath. The impossible truth formed in his mind. The cub chose her. That should not happen. Ever. The cub belonged to royal blood. Even trained soldiers could not approach it. Yet this Omega girl. She had done it in minutes. Kael's eyes darkened slightly. Who are you, really? But Lena did not know she was being watched. She adjusted her cloak around the cub and walked away through the storm, back toward the palace. Kael followed, silent as death. As Lena walked, the cub shifted slightly. A faint glow appeared under its fur. She stopped. The mark was small, golden, shaped like a royal crest. Lena frowned softly. Is that a birthmark? But far behind her, Kael froze completely. His expression changed for the first time. Recognition. Sharp. Unmistakable. That mark. His voice dropped. Only appears on the bloodline of the Alpha royal family. His gaze lifted slowly toward Lena. The storm suddenly felt colder. She is holding something that belongs to me. Lena entered an abandoned stable before reaching the palace. It was old, broken, but dry. She placed the cub gently on hay. Stay here, okay? I'll find food. The cub whined softly. She smiled. I'll come back. I promise. She took out her small meal, split it in half, and gave the larger portion to the cub. You need it more than me. The cub ate slowly, watching her, as if trying to understand why she would give away food for nothing. Lena sat beside it, her back against the wall, her eyes tired, but peaceful. For a moment, she forgot she was an Omega, forgot she was unwanted, forgot everything. Outside the stable, footsteps echoed. Elegant. Controlled. Lady Selene appeared. Perfect smile. Cold eyes. Interesting. She looked at the cub. Then at Lena. So this is what caused the disturbance. Lena stood quickly. I found him injured. Selene raised a hand. I didn't ask. Silence. The cub growled softly and moved behind Lena. Selene's eyes narrowed. It rejected her. Publicly. Her smile faded slightly. That creature chose you. A pause. Then a soft laugh. Dangerous. I see. She turned away. But her eyes lingered. Cold. Possessive. Calculating. This Omega is a problem. As Selene walked away, she whispered to a guard. Find everything about her. The guard bowed. Yes, my lady. Selene smiled faintly. If she stands in my way. Her eyes darkened. She will disappear quietly. Back in the stable, Lena did not know. The cub slept peacefully beside her. And somewhere in the forest, the Alpha King continued watching. His expression unreadable. But something had already changed. The kingdom had not noticed yet. But destiny had already begun to move. And it had chosen Lena. The storm outside grew stronger. But inside the abandoned stable, A fragile trust had been born. A bond between an unseen Omega and a royal wolf cub, while the most powerful alpha in the world watched silently from the shadows. Snow battered the old stable walls while cold wind slipped through every crack in the wood. Most people in the palace slept behind warm stone walls and glowing fireplaces. But Lena remained inside the abandoned stable, sitting on a pile of hay beside the small wolf cub she had rescued. The cub slept peacefully for the first time since she had found him. Lena watched him quietly. A small smile appeared on her face. "You must have been very scared," she whispered. The cub twitched slightly in his sleep. For a moment, Lena forgot about the insults, the cold, and the loneliness that followed her everywhere. She simply sat there, listening to the cub breathe. It felt strangely comforting, as if neither of them were alone anymore. The next morning arrived beneath a pale grey sky. The storm had weakened. Sunlight pushed through the clouds. Lena woke to a warm weight pressed against her side. She blinked. The cub was sleeping against her arm. His tiny paws rested on her lap. A soft laugh escaped her lips. "Well, I guess you're comfortable." The cub opened one eye, then immediately pushed his nose against her hand. Lena smiled wider. Nobody had ever greeted her so happily before. Not once. Not in 20 years. The realization made something ache inside her chest. But she pushed the feeling away. The cub stood and stretched. Then he stumbled slightly because of his injured leg. Lena instantly knelt beside him. "Careful." She examined the bandage she had made from her torn sleeve. The wound looked better. Not healed, but better. "You're strong." The cub wagged his tail. Lena laughed softly again. The sound filled the stable. For the first time in years, happiness felt possible. Outside, the palace was already preparing for the lunar selection ceremony. Servants rushed through hallways. Decorations appeared across the royal grounds. Nobles arrived from distant territories. Everyone talked about the same thing. Who would become the future Luna of Moonshadow Kingdom? Most people believed the answer was obvious. Lady Selene. Beautiful. Powerful. Ambitious. Everything a future queen was supposed to be. Or so they thought. Inside the royal palace, Lady Selene walked through the grand corridors like she already owned them. Servants bowed. Guards stepped aside. Nobles greeted her with respect. Selene enjoyed every second. She had spent years building her reputation. Years earning influence. Years positioning herself beside Alpha King Kael. Nothing would take that away from her. Nothing. Yet one image refused to leave her mind. A small wolf cub hiding behind an Omega servant. The memory irritated her. It shouldn't matter. But somehow it did. The cub's reaction had embarrassed her. And Selene never forgot humiliation. "Find out who she is," Selene ordered one of her servants. "The Omega." "Yes, my lady." "I want everything." The servant bowed immediately. Selene continued walking. Her expression remained calm. But beneath the surface, suspicion was growing. Meanwhile, Lena spent the morning caring for the cub. She brought fresh water, clean cloth, and the little food she could spare. Every time she returned, the cub greeted her excitedly, as though she had been gone for years. "You really don't like being alone, do you?" The cub barked softly. Lena giggled. "Me neither." Hours passed. Their bond grew stronger. The cub followed her everywhere. If she stood, he stood. If she sat, he sat. If she moved, he followed. At one point, he even tried climbing into her lap despite being much larger than before. "You're getting too big for that." The cub ignored her. Lena laughed. The sound echoed through the stable. Outside, hidden among distant trees, golden eyes watched quietly. Kael. The Alpha King. He had returned. Again. He told himself he was checking on the cub. Nothing more. Yet somehow his attention always drifted toward Lena. He watched her feeding the cub before feeding herself. He watched her fixing the cub's bandages. He watched her smile. And every observation created another question. Why? Why would someone with nothing continue giving? Why would an Omega servant sacrifice comfort for a creature she didn't even know? Most people wanted something. Power, money, status, recognition. Lena wanted none of those things. She simply cared. Kael found that strangely unsettling, because genuine kindness was something he had almost forgotten existed. His entire life had been filled with lies. People obeyed him because they feared him. Others admired him because of his power. But kindness, true kindness, that was rare. Dangerously rare. Back inside the stable, the cub suddenly lifted his head. His ears twitched. Then he ran toward the door. Lena frowned. What is it? The cub barked. Then barked again. Excited. Happy. Kael immediately stepped deeper into the shadows. The cub stared toward the trees. His tail wagged. Lena looked in the same direction. But she saw nothing. Only snow-covered forest. Strange. The cub seemed convinced someone was there. Eventually he returned. Lena scratched behind his ears. You're imagining things. Kael remained hidden. For some reason, he felt relieved she hadn't discovered him. The feeling annoyed him immediately. Why should it matter? She was only an Omega servant. Nothing more. Yet his thoughts continued returning to her. Again. And again. And again. Several days passed. The cub grew stronger. His injury improved rapidly. Soon he could run without stumbling. He chased snowflakes, played in the hay, and followed Lena like a loyal shadow. The stable slowly transformed into something warmer, something happier, a small refuge from the harsh world outside. Unfortunately, peace never lasted long inside Moonshadow Kingdom. One afternoon, Lena arrived carrying food. The moment she opened the stable door, she froze. Lady Selene stood inside. The cub stood beside her, growling. Low. Dangerous. Lena's heart immediately tightened. What are you doing here? Selene turned slowly. Her smile was beautiful. And completely false. I came to see the animal. The cub moved closer to Lena instantly. Selene noticed. Her smile weakened. You seem attached. Lena knelt beside him. He's still recovering. Then perhaps he should recover somewhere more suitable. Lena looked confused. What do you mean? Selene stepped closer. I mean that an Omega servant isn't qualified to care for such a creature. The cub growled louder. Selene's eyes flashed briefly. I'll take him. No. The answer escaped Lena before she could stop herself. Silence filled the stable. Even Lena looked surprised. Nobody said no to Lady Selene. Nobody. Selene stared at her. Slowly. Coldly. What did you say? Lena swallowed hard. Fear crawled into her stomach. But when she looked at the cub, courage appeared. He isn't ready. Selene's smile disappeared. The cub moved directly behind Lena, using her as protection. The gesture felt like a slap. Selene had spent years earning respect, years gaining influence. Yet this creature trusted an Omega more than her. The humiliation burned. Very slowly, Selene stepped back. Interesting. Her voice sounded calm. Too calm. I hope your confidence lasts. Then she walked away. Lena released a breath she didn't realize she was holding. The cub pressed against her side. You shouldn't growl at powerful people. The cub barked. Lena laughed softly. Actually, maybe you should. Far away, Kael had witnessed everything. Every word. Every expression. Especially Selene's reaction. And he didn't like what he saw. Jealousy. Possessiveness. Fear. Dangerous emotions. Selene viewed Lena as a threat. That much was now obvious. The question was how far she would go. The answer arrived sooner than anyone expected. That evening, one of Selene's servants entered her private chambers. I found information about the Omega. Selene looked up. Tell me. Her name is Lena. The servant continued. 20 years old. No family. No influence. No protection. Selene listened carefully. The servant hesitated. People describe her as kind. Selene laughed. As if kindness matters. The servant lowered his eyes. She has never caused trouble. Everyone causes trouble eventually. Selene rose from her chair. Her gaze drifted toward the palace window. Snow covered the kingdom below. She is becoming noticeable. Because of the cub? Yes. Selene's eyes narrowed. And because Kael has started paying attention. The servant looked surprised. The king? Selene nodded slowly. I know him. Her voice became colder. He notices things others ignore. Silence followed. Then Selene smiled. A dangerous smile. Which means Lena must disappear before she becomes important. The servant looked nervous. What should we do? Selene turned toward him. And whispered her first plan. Far across the palace grounds, Lena remained completely unaware of the danger approaching. She sat inside the stable with the cub resting beside her. Night covered the kingdom. The stars glittered above. For once, she felt peaceful, safe, hopeful. The cub lifted his head suddenly. His ears twitched. Again. Lena smiled. Imaginary friend. The cub barked happily. Outside, hidden beyond the stable walls, Kael stood watching. The cub wasn't imagining anything. He knew exactly who was there. Kael stared through the window, watching Lena read an old storybook aloud. Her voice was soft, gentle, comforting. The cub slowly drifted to sleep. Kael remained motionless. He should have left hours ago. Yet he couldn't. Because every time he looked at Lena, something unfamiliar happened. The world became quieter. The constant weight of leadership faded. The endless pressure disappeared. For a few moments, he wasn't the Alpha King. He was simply a man watching someone good. Someone real. Someone honest. A dangerous feeling. And perhaps the most dangerous thing of all. He didn't want it to end. In Moonshadow Kingdom, happiness was fragile. Especially for an Omega. Especially for someone beginning to attract attention she never wanted. The morning sun had barely risen when whispers started spreading through the palace. At first they were small, quiet, easy to ignore. Servants exchanging rumors while carrying supplies. Guards speaking in low voices near corridor corners. Nobles sharing suspicious glances during breakfast. Something was wrong. Nobody knew exactly what. Only that tension had appeared overnight. Lena noticed it immediately. People stared longer than usual. Some servants avoided eye contact. Others stopped talking whenever she walked past. The strange behavior made her uneasy. But she focused on her work. That was what she always did. Keep your head down. Stay quiet. Avoid trouble. The lessons of an Omega's life. Unfortunately, trouble had already begun searching for her. Inside her private chambers, Lady Selene stood before a large mirror while servants adjusted her elegant gown. She looked flawless. Beautiful. Regal. Every detail carefully perfected. Yet her expression remained cold. A servant entered quickly. My lady. Selene turned. Well. The jewels are missing. A slow smile appeared. Exactly as planned. The servant continued. The palace is already searching. Good. And the evidence? Selene's smile widened. Placed exactly where you ordered. The servant lowered his head. Selene dismissed him with a wave. The moment the door closed, she looked toward her reflection. For years she had worked toward becoming Luna. For years she had positioned herself beside Alpha King Kael. She would not lose everything because of a foolish Omega girl and a wolf cub. Lena needed to disappear. And by tomorrow, she would. Far away, Lena was feeding Ash inside the stable. The cub had grown stronger every day. His injured leg had almost healed completely. Now he bounded across the hay with endless energy. Lena laughed as he chased his own tail. You realize that's attached to you, right? Ash barked. Then spun faster. Lena laughed harder. The sound filled the stable. For a brief moment, everything felt normal. Then heavy footsteps approached. The stable door burst open. Guards entered. Several of them. Their expressions serious. Their hands resting on weapons. Lena immediately stood. Confused. What happened? The captain stepped forward. Lena of the servant quarters. Yes. You are under arrest. The words struck like ice. Lena blinked. What? Ash growled instantly. The cub moved protectively in front of her. The captain ignored him. You are accused of stealing royal property. Lena stared. I don't understand. Search her quarters. Several guards left immediately. Panic spread through her chest. There must be a mistake. The captain remained expressionless. That's not for me to decide. Ash continued growling. His fur stood upright. Every instinct told him something was wrong. Minutes later, the guards returned. One carried a small wooden box. The captain opened it. Inside rested several royal jewels. Rare. Expensive. Missing. Lena's face lost all color. No. The captain lifted one jewel. This was found inside your room. No. Her voice shook. No, it wasn't. It was. I've never seen those before. The captain signaled the guards. Take her. Ash barked furiously. Lena stepped backward. Fear filled every part of her. This isn't true. Nobody listened. Nobody cared. The guards grabbed her arms. Ash lunged. The captain barely avoided his teeth. Control that animal. Lena looked desperately at the cub. Ash, stop. The cub hesitated. Only because she asked. The guards pulled her away. Ash barked again. Louder. Desperate. Lena's heart shattered as his cries followed her out of the stable. For the first time since finding him, she couldn't protect him. Inside the royal court, the atmosphere felt suffocating. Hundreds of eyes watched. Judged. Condemned. Lena stood at the center of the hall while nobles whispered around her. An Omega thief. How predictable. I always knew she was suspicious. The words cut deeper than knives. Lena clenched her hands. Not from guilt. From helplessness. Because no matter what she said, nobody wanted the truth. They wanted someone to blame. And she was easy to blame. Lady Selene sat among the nobles. Elegant. Calm. Perfectly composed. Only the faint satisfaction in her eyes betrayed her. Everything was going according to plan. Lena looked around desperately. Surely someone would defend her. Someone who knew she wasn't capable of theft. Someone who understood. Nobody spoke. Not a single voice. Not one. Even servants she had helped before avoided her gaze. Fear was stronger than loyalty. Always. Then the court doors opened. Silence spread instantly. Alpha King Kael entered. Power filled the room. Every person lowered their head. Every conversation died. Kael walked toward his throne without expression. Cold. Controlled. Unreadable. Yet the moment his eyes found Lena, something shifted. Only slightly. But enough. He studied her carefully. The fear. The confusion. The heartbreak. Nothing about her looked guilty. Nothing. The trial began. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. Accusations multiplied. Each new claim painted Lena as a criminal. A liar. A thief. Lena listened in disbelief. People invented stories. Exaggerated details. Twisted harmless events into suspicious behavior. The entire process felt unreal. Like a nightmare she couldn't escape. Finally the council addressed her directly. Do you confess? No. The answer came immediately. Strong despite her fear. A noble frowned. The evidence is overwhelming. Because someone planted it. Murmurs spread through the hall. How dare she? Still lying. Typical Omega. Lena swallowed hard. Tears threatened to appear. But she refused. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of people who had already decided her fate. Another council member spoke. If you're innocent, explain the jewels. I can't. Convenient. Because I don't know how they got there. The noble rolled his eyes. Several others nodded. Their minds were already made up. Throughout everything, Kael remained silent. Watching. Listening. Observing. He noticed details others ignored. Small inconsistencies. Tiny contradictions. Witnesses changing stories. Evidence appearing too conveniently. Nothing felt right. Yet he said nothing. Not yet. Because he needed certainty. And certainty had not arrived. Hours passed. Arguments continued. Eventually the council withdrew for deliberation. The hall buzzed with anticipation. Most people already knew the outcome. An Omega accused of stealing royal jewels. There would only be one ending. Lena stood alone while everyone avoided her. Completely isolated. Completely abandoned. The feeling hurt more than the accusations themselves. Across the room, Kael watched quietly. Something inside him disliked what he saw. Not because she was accused, but because she stood alone. Completely alone. The realization irritated him. Why should he care? She was nothing to him. Yet the thought felt increasingly false. The council returned. Silence fell. The lead noble unfolded a scroll. After reviewing all evidence, this council has reached a decision. Lena's heart pounded. Lena of Moonshadow Kingdom is found guilty of theft against the crown. Gasps echoed through the hall. Not because anyone was surprised. Because the moment felt final. Heavy. Permanent. The noble continued. Punishment shall be immediate exile. The word struck harder than anything before. Exile. Everything vanished. Her home. Her work. Her future. Gone. Lena lowered her eyes. Pain flooded through her chest. Not because she feared exile. Because she knew nobody believed her. Not one person. The guards approached. Chains waited. Humiliation waited. A life destroyed waited. Then suddenly, a roar echoed through the palace. Every head turned. The massive court doors burst open. A blur of grey fur raced inside. The wolf cub sprinted through the hall. Past guards. Past nobles. Past servants. Ignoring everyone. The crowd erupted into shocked whispers. A royal cub. How did it get here? Stop him. Nobody could. Ash ran directly toward Lena. Without hesitation. Without doubt. Without fear. The cub stopped in front of her. Then turned. Facing the entire court. Growling. Protectively. Defiantly. The hall froze. Complete silence. Ash stood between Lena and everyone else. As though challenging the kingdom itself. The message was unmistakable. You will not touch her. Several nobles exchanged nervous glances. The cub's loyalty was impossible to ignore. Even more shocking. This was royal blood. A creature famous for rejecting almost everyone. Yet now it openly protected an accused thief. Questions immediately appeared. If Lena were truly guilty, why would the cub trust her? Why defend her? Why risk himself? Lady Selene felt panic for the first time. A tiny crack appeared in her confidence. This wasn't supposed to happen. The cub wasn't supposed to interfere. The court wasn't supposed to question anything. Ash growled louder. One guard attempted approaching. The cub snapped instantly. The guard retreated. Embarrassed. The hall remained silent. Waiting. Watching. Then Kael finally stood. Every person froze. The Alpha King stepped forward slowly. His gaze moved from Ash to Lena, then toward the council. The pressure in the room became unbearable. Interesting, Kael said calmly. Nobody spoke. Nobody dared. His eyes narrowed slightly. The cub appears unconvinced. Nervous laughter died instantly. Kael continued. Exile is postponed. Shock exploded across the hall. What? Impossible. The king intervened. Selene's face paled. The council looked stunned. One noble gathered enough courage to speak. "My king, the verdict." "I heard the verdict." The noble immediately fell silent. Kael's voice remained calm. Yet absolute authority filled every word. "The investigation continues." No one argued. No one could. The decision was final. Ash relaxed slightly. Lena stared at Kael. Confused. Overwhelmed. Grateful. For the first time all day, hope appeared. Small. Fragile. But real. Kael looked away before she could speak. The court slowly dispersed. People whispered constantly. Speculation spread like wildfire. Why had the king interfered? Why did the cub protect her? What was really happening? Questions multiplied. Answers remained hidden. As Lena was escorted away, Ash followed closely beside her, refusing to leave, refusing to abandon her. And somewhere deep inside the palace, Lady Selene realized her perfect plan had failed. Not completely, but enough. The Omega was still here. Still breathing. Still dangerous. For the first time, Selene understood something important. Lena wasn't merely surviving anymore. She was becoming a threat. And threats had to be eliminated. No matter the cost. No matter the consequences. No matter who got hurt. The game had changed. And the battle for Moonshadow Kingdom had finally begun. The kingdom did not sleep that night. News traveled faster than winter winds. Every corridor, every servant hall, every noble gathering carried the same story. The accused Omega had not been exiled. The Alpha King himself had stopped it. And even more shocking, the royal cub had publicly defended her. For many people, it made no sense. For others, it was dangerous. But for Lena, it was terrifying. Because attention was something she had spent her entire life avoiding. Now the entire kingdom seemed to know her name. She sat alone in a small guest room assigned to her after the court hearing. The room was simple. A narrow bed. A wooden table. A small fireplace. Nothing luxurious. Yet it felt strange. Almost uncomfortable. She wasn't used to being given anything. Ash lay curled beside her feet. The cub had refused to leave. Several royal guards had tried. Several had failed. The moment anyone attempted separating him from Lena, he growled fiercely. Eventually everyone gave up. Lena stared into the fire. Her thoughts refused to settle. Everything had changed too quickly. The accusations. The trial. The humiliation. The king's decision. It all felt unreal. Ash lifted his head and nudged her hand. Lena smiled weakly. "At least you're still here." The cub pushed closer. She gently scratched behind his ears. "You caused quite a scene today." Ash barked proudly. Lena laughed despite herself. The sound eased some of the pain inside her chest. But only a little. Because another question remained. Why had Kael stopped the exile? The Alpha King owed her nothing. He barely knew her. Yet he had intervened. The thought lingered long after midnight. Meanwhile, inside the highest tower of the palace, Kael stood alone before a massive window overlooking the kingdom. Snow covered everything below. The world looked peaceful. Deceptively peaceful. His mind returned to the court. To Lena. To Ash. To the countless inconsistencies surrounding the theft. None of it felt right. Years of ruling had sharpened his instincts. And his instincts rarely failed him. Someone had manipulated the investigation. Someone had wanted Lena removed. The question was why. Kael already suspected the answer. Selene. The possibility lingered in his thoughts. Unfortunately, suspicion wasn't proof. And without proof, acting against one of the kingdom's most influential noblewomen would create chaos. He needed evidence. Real evidence. The door opened behind him. A trusted royal guard entered. "My king." Kael didn't turn. "Report." The guard bowed. "We investigated several servants connected to the theft. And some testimonies don't match." Kael's eyes narrowed. "Continue." The guard nodded. "There are signs of coordination." The words confirmed his concerns. Not certainty, but enough to continue digging. Keep investigating. Yes, my king. The guard hesitated, then spoke carefully. The Omega girl. Kael finally turned. What about her? She has no history of theft. Silence. None. None. The guard lowered his eyes. Most descriptions mention kindness. The room grew quiet. Kael dismissed him shortly afterward, then returned to the window. Kindness. That word appeared again. Again and again. Every report. Every observation. Every encounter. The same conclusion. Lena was kind. A simple trait. Yet strangely rare. Especially within palace walls. The next morning arrived beneath clear skies. The storm had finally passed. Sunlight reflected off snow-covered rooftops. For the first time in days, the kingdom seemed bright. Lena stepped outside with Ash beside her. The cub immediately sprinted through fresh snow. Excited. Playful. Happy. Watching him made her smile. He chased birds. Pounced on snowdrifts. Slid across icy patches. Completely unaware of politics, betrayal, or power. For a moment Lena envied him. Life seemed simpler through his eyes. Ash suddenly ran back toward her carrying a stick. Lena laughed. No. The cub dropped it at her feet. She folded her arms. Ash. He barked. Louder. Demanding. Lena shook her head. You are impossible. The cub nudged the stick toward her. She finally surrendered. Fine. She threw it. Ash raced after it immediately. Neither noticed someone watching from a distant balcony. Kael. The Alpha King stood silently above. Observing. Again. The sight confused him. Lena looked different outside the court. Different away from fear and humiliation. She smiled more. Laughed more. Ash clearly adored her. And strangely, watching them eased something inside him. A feeling he couldn't explain. One he wasn't entirely comfortable with. Below, Lena finally sensed she was being watched. She looked upward. Their eyes met. For a brief moment neither moved. The world seemed strangely quiet. Then Kael turned away first. Lena frowned. Confused. Because for the first time, she wasn't afraid of him. The realization surprised her. Everyone feared the Alpha King. Everyone. Yet when she looked at him, she saw loneliness. Nothing more. Nothing less. Across the palace grounds, Lady Selene watched everything. Every glance. Every interaction. Every moment. Jealousy burned inside her. Not because Kael openly favored Lena. He didn't. At least not yet. The problem was possibility. Potential. Danger. Selene understood power. She understood influence. And she understood attraction. Something was changing. Slowly. But undeniably. If she waited too long, she might lose control entirely. That possibility terrified her. By afternoon she had already decided her next move. It would be more direct. More dangerous. And far more permanent. Several days later, Kael made an announcement. Lena would be temporarily relocated to a remote royal outpost while the investigation continued. Officially, it was for safety. Unofficially, Kael wanted her away from palace politics. Away from hidden enemies. Away from Selene. Lena accepted without complaint. She never argued with royal orders. Still, she felt nervous. The palace had become familiar. Ash had become family. The idea of leaving unsettled her. Especially because the cub seemed determined to follow. No. Lena crossed her arms. You're staying here. Ash barked. No. Another bark. Ash. The cub sat stubbornly. Lena sighed. You don't understand. Ash tilted his head. Then ignored her completely. Lena laughed softly. You really are impossible. The journey began the following morning. Several guards accompanied her. A supply wagon carried provisions. The road stretched through dense forest. At first everything seemed peaceful. Snow crunched beneath wheels. Birds moved between branches. Cold air filled the world. Lena sat quietly near the front of the wagon, lost in thought. Ash rested beside her. The cub had somehow convinced everyone to allow him along. No one wanted to argue with royal blood. Hours passed. The forest grew darker, thicker, more isolated. The lead guard frowned. Something felt wrong. The woods had become too quiet. No birds. No movement. No sound. Only silence. Dangerous silence. Then it happened. A howl shattered the air. Every horse panicked instantly. Another howl followed. Closer. Louder. The guards grabbed weapons. Formation. The command echoed through the trees. Shadows moved between branches. Fast. Aggressive. Hungry. Rogue wolves. Dozens of them. The attack came without warning. Chaos exploded. Wolves burst from every direction. Horses screamed. Guards shouted. Steel flashed. Snow flew. Everything happened at once. Lena stumbled backward. Fear slammed into her chest. Ash growled fiercely beside her. The cub's fur rose. His eyes locked onto approaching danger. The battle worsened instantly. Several guards broke formation. Others fled. Panic spread faster than discipline. A rogue wolf lunged toward the wagon. Another attacked from the side. Lena struggled to understand what was happening. Then she saw Ash. The cub had become separated. Trapped. 3 rogue wolves surrounded him. Their teeth bared. Their growls low. Predatory. Ash stood his ground. Brave. But small. Far too small. Lena's heart stopped. Ash. The cub looked toward her. Fear appeared for the first time. Everyone else was running. Everyone else was trying to survive. Lena had a choice. Run. Or help him. The decision lasted less than a second. She ran toward danger. Not away from it. Toward it. Several guards shouted warnings. She ignored them. A rogue wolf lunged. Lena grabbed a fallen branch. Swung desperately. The wolf recoiled. Another attacked. She stumbled. Nearly fell. Yet she kept moving. Ash was all she could see. All she could think about. The cub barked desperately. Lena finally reached him. Without hesitation she stepped directly between Ash and the wolves. Protecting him. Shielding him. Offering herself instead. The wolves advanced. Slowly. Hungrily. Lena trembled. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she didn't move. She couldn't. Because Ash was behind her. And nobody else would protect him. You will not touch him. Her voice shook. Yet somehow the words remained firm. The wolves attacked. Pain exploded across her shoulder. Claws tore through fabric. Blood stained the snow. Lena gasped. But remained standing. Ash barked furiously. Another wolf lunged. Lena blocked it again. Another wound. More pain. More blood. Still she refused to move. Tears filled her eyes. Fear consumed her. Yet courage held her upright. I won't let him face this alone. The words escaped through clenched teeth. The wolves prepared another attack. This time she knew she couldn't stop them. She was too injured. Too exhausted. Too weak. Ash pressed against her leg. Terrified. Trusting her completely. Lena closed her eyes briefly. Not from surrender. From acceptance. If protecting him cost everything, then so be it. The wolves charged. And at that exact moment, the forest exploded. A terrifying roar shook the trees. Power flooded the air. Ancient. Dominant. Absolute. Every wolf froze instantly. Fear replaced aggression. The rogue wolves backed away. Whining. Trembling. Because only one creature carried that level of authority. Only one. The Alpha King. Kael emerged from the darkness like a force of nature. His eyes glowed gold. His expression was terrifying. The forest itself seemed afraid of him. He looked at the wolves. Just once. That was enough. The rogues immediately retreated. Some fled. Others collapsed. Complete submission. Complete fear. Within seconds the battle ended. Silence returned. Heavy. Shocking. Unreal. Kael's attention shifted. Toward Lena. Toward the blood staining the snow. Toward the wounds covering her body. And for the first time in years, his calm mask cracked. Only slightly. But enough. Because the sight made something dangerous awaken inside him. Something protective. Something fierce. Something he could no longer ignore. Lena swayed unsteadily. Her vision blurred. Pain overwhelmed everything. The last thing she saw before collapsing was Kael running toward her. Not walking. Running. As though losing her mattered. As though she mattered. Then darkness swallowed everything. And the future of Moonshadow Kingdom changed forever. Strangely warm. Lena floated somewhere between dreams and reality, unable to tell where one ended and the other began. The pain was distant now. Muted. Like a storm happening far away. She heard voices. Footsteps. Someone calling her name. But everything sounded blurred. Unclear. Heavy. Then another voice reached her. Deep. Powerful. Familiar. Stay with me. The words cut through the darkness. Lena tried to respond. Tried to open her eyes. But exhaustion pulled her back down. The voice came again. Closer this time. More urgent. Lena. For reasons she couldn't explain, hearing that voice made her feel safe. And so she followed it. Slowly. Carefully. Back toward the light. When Lena finally opened her eyes, sunlight greeted her. Soft golden rays filtered through enormous windows. The ceiling above her was unfamiliar. Elegant. Beautiful. Far too beautiful. Confusion filled her immediately. She pushed herself upward. Pain exploded through her shoulder. A gasp escaped her lips. Instantly a healer appeared beside the bed. Careful. Lena blinked. Where am I? The healer smiled gently. The Royal Medical Wing. Her eyes widened. The palace. Yes. Memories rushed back. The forest. The wolves. Fear slammed into her chest. Ash. The healer quickly raised a hand. His safe. Before Lena could ask another question, a blur of grey fur burst through the room. The cub leaped onto the bed. Lena laughed and cried at the same time. Ash. The cub immediately began licking her face. His tail moved so fast it nearly knocked over a chair. You scared me. Ash whined softly, then pressed against her chest. As if making sure she was real. As if making sure she wasn't leaving again. Lena wrapped her arms around him carefully. The simple contact eased something deep inside her. For several moments nothing else mattered. Then she noticed something. The room had become strangely quiet. She looked toward the doorway. And froze. Kael stood there. Watching. The Alpha King was still wearing his black travel cloak. His dark hair looked slightly disordered. Almost as if he hadn't rested. For a moment neither spoke. The silence stretched. Uncomfortable. Heavy. Then Kael stepped forward. How are you feeling? The question surprised her. Not because of the words. Because of the concern hidden beneath them. Lena swallowed. Better. Kael nodded. The healer bowed and quietly left the room. Now only 3 remained. The king. The girl. And the cub connecting them. Ash happily moved between both of them. Completely unaware of tension. Kael looked at the healing wounds on Lena's shoulder. His jaw tightened slightly. You should have run. Lena blinked. What? In the forest. His voice remained calm. You should have escaped. Lena glanced down. Ash couldn't. Silence followed. Kael stared at her. You were willing to die. Lena hesitated. Then looked at Ash. He was alone. The answer came naturally. Without thought. Without hesitation. As though no other choice had ever existed. Something shifted in Kael's expression. Not visible to most people. But visible to her. Respect. For the first time, she saw genuine respect in his eyes. The realization startled her. Kael moved toward the window. His gaze settled on the kingdom outside. I've seen warriors abandon each other. His voice became quieter. I've seen nobles sacrifice entire villages to protect themselves. Lena listened silently. Kael continued. But you protected someone weaker than yourself. The room fell silent again. Lena wasn't sure what to say. Nobody had ever praised her courage before. Most people barely noticed her existence. Ash finally broke the tension by climbing directly into Kael's lap. Lena laughed. Kael looked mildly offended. The cub ignored him completely. For the first time, Lena witnessed something unexpected. A small smile. Not large. Not dramatic. But real. And somehow that smile changed everything. Because it reminded her that beneath the title, beneath the power, Kael was still human. The following days passed quietly. Lena remained in recovery. Her wounds improved steadily. Ash spent every possible moment with her. And strangely, Kael visited often. Never for long. Never with explanation. Yet he always appeared. Sometimes to check her condition. Sometimes to bring updates. Sometimes simply to sit in silence while Ash slept nearby. At first Lena found it intimidating. Then confusing. Eventually she began looking forward to it. One afternoon Kael arrived carrying several documents. Lena raised an eyebrow. That looks serious. It is. He placed the papers on a nearby table. The investigation continues. Her smile faded. The theft accusations. She had almost forgotten. Almost. Kael noticed immediately. You're worried. A little. A little. Lena sighed. Fine. A lot. Kael nodded slowly. That makes more sense. Despite everything, the comment made her laugh. The sound surprised both of them. For a brief moment neither looked away. Then Ash suddenly barked loudly, demanding attention. The moment shattered. Neither complained. Days later Lena finally recovered enough to walk through the palace gardens. Fresh air felt wonderful. Flowers pushed through melting snow. Birds returned to tree branches. Life slowly returned to the kingdom. Ash raced ahead happily, chasing butterflies, investigating absolutely everything. Lena followed more slowly, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. Unfortunately, peace rarely lasted long around Moonshadow Palace. Across the garden stood Lady Selene, watching. Her expression remained calm, but internally she was unraveling. Every day Lena remained alive made things worse. Every day Kael spent near her increased the danger. And every day the investigation continued brought the truth closer. Selene needed another solution. Fast. Permanent. Dangerous. Because she was running out of time. That evening Kael summoned Lena privately. The request immediately made her nervous. She followed a servant through several palace corridors before reaching a quiet chamber overlooking the royal gardens. Kael stood alone. Waiting. Lena entered carefully. You wanted to see me. Kael nodded. Sit. She obeyed. A long silence followed. Then Kael surprised her. Ash isn't just any cub. Lena blinked. I figured that much. No. His expression became serious. You don't understand. Something in his tone made her pay closer attention. Kael slowly sat across from her. Then finally spoke the truth. Ash belongs to the royal bloodline. Lena stared. Her heart skipped. What? Kael continued. The mark you saw in the forest. She remembered immediately. The glowing symbol beneath Ash's fur. The royal crest. Kael nodded. Yes. Lena looked toward the door instinctively, as though expecting the cub to suddenly become different. But why was he alone? An accident. Kael's expression darkened. He became separated from his guards. The room fell silent. Lena struggled to process everything. Then another realization struck. You knew from the beginning. Yes. And you watched me. Another pause. Yes. Heat rushed into her face. You watched me. Kael looked surprisingly unbothered. I did. How much? All of it. Lena covered her face briefly. Oh no. Kael almost smiled. Almost. You read stories to him. Lena groaned. You saw that? Yes. You saw me talking to him? Yes. You saw me arguing with him? Yes. Lena wished the floor would swallow her. Kael actually smiled this time. A real smile. Small. But undeniable. The sight stole her breath for a moment. Then Kael's expression became serious again. There's something else. The warmth faded. What? His golden eyes met hers. I have never seen anyone earn Ash's trust that quickly. Lena remained silent. Kael continued. He chose you. The words felt strangely important. More important than they should have. Neither knew why. Neither wanted to examine it too closely. Because the answer frightened them both. Attraction. Connection. Destiny. Whatever name it carried. It was growing. Slowly. Steadily. Impossible to ignore. Fortunately, Ash interrupted again by bursting into the room carrying a stolen cushion. Lena laughed. Kael sighed. The cub looked extremely proud of himself. And for several minutes the room filled with warmth instead of tension. The moment felt fragile. Special. Dangerously perfect. Which was exactly why fate interrupted. A loud knock echoed through the chamber. Kael's expression sharpened instantly. Enter. The door opened. One of his most trusted guards stepped inside. The man looked breathless. Urgent. Concerned. My king. Kael immediately stood. What happened? The guard bowed quickly. We found a witness. Silence filled the room. Lena's heart began racing. Kael's eyes narrowed. A witness? Yes. The guard nodded. A servant connected to the jewel theft. Hope exploded inside Lena. Sharp. Painful. Beautiful. The guard continued. He claims he knows who planted the evidence. Every heartbeat suddenly felt louder. Faster. Stronger. Kael exchanged a glance with Lena. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. Because they both understood exactly what this meant. The truth was finally moving. The lies were finally cracking. And somewhere inside Moonshadow Palace, someone was about to lose everything. Lady Selene simply didn't know it yet. But the kingdom was approaching a reckoning. And this time, the truth was coming for her. The morning of the royal hearing arrived beneath a sky of silver clouds. The entire kingdom seemed to hold its breath. Servants whispered in hallways. Nobles gathered in private chambers. Guards stood straighter than usual. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. The investigation that had shaken Moonshadow Kingdom for weeks was finally reaching its conclusion. And at the center of everything stood a girl who had once been invisible. Lena. The Omega servant nobody had noticed. The Omega servant everyone had accused. The Omega servant who had somehow earned the trust of a royal wolf cub, and the attention of the Alpha King himself. Inside her room, Lena stood before a mirror. Her hands trembled slightly. Not because she was afraid of punishment anymore, but because she was afraid of hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope could break a heart faster than fear ever could. For most of her life, disappointment had been predictable, reliable, safe. But now she wanted justice. Now she wanted the truth. And wanting something meant risking loss. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. The door opened. Ash rushed inside immediately. The cub practically crashed into her legs. Lena laughed. Good morning to you too. Ash barked happily. A second figure entered behind him. Kael. The Alpha King looked calm as always. Powerful. Controlled. Unreadable. Yet recently Lena had begun noticing things others missed. Small things. Tiny cracks beneath the mask. And right now she noticed one immediately. Concern. His eyes moved across her face. Studying her. Checking for fear. Checking for doubt. Checking for pain. You didn't sleep. Lena sighed. Was it that obvious? Yes. Ash barked in agreement. Lena pointed at him. Traitor. The cub looked pleased with himself. Kael almost smiled. Almost. You don't have to attend if you don't want to. The words surprised her. What? The hearing. Lena blinked. You think I should hide? No. His voice remained calm. I think you've suffered enough. The words settled heavily between them. For a moment neither looked away. Then Lena straightened her shoulders. No. Kael waited. Lena lifted her chin. I spent my entire life hiding. Silence. I won't do it anymore. Something flashed in Kael's eyes. Pride. Respect. Admiration. He nodded once. Good. The simple word warmed her more than it should have. Neither mentioned it. Neither trusted themselves to. Because whatever existed between them was becoming harder to ignore. And both understood how dangerous that could be. Hours later the royal court filled beyond capacity. Every seat was occupied. Every balcony crowded. People from across the kingdom had arrived to witness the outcome. Nobles. Merchants. Warriors. Servants. Everyone wanted answers. At the center of the room stood the royal throne. A symbol of authority, power, judgment. And directly before it stood Lena. Alone. But not truly alone. Because Ash sat beside her. Refusing to leave. The cub's presence drew constant attention. Whispers spread throughout the crowd. He really chose her. Look at him. He won't leave her side. Even now. Across the hall, Lady Selene sat perfectly still. At least outwardly. Inside, panic was growing. The witness worried her. The investigation worried her. Kael worried her most of all. Because the Alpha King had become increasingly difficult to predict. For years she believed she understood him. Power. Logic. Control. Those things guided him. But lately something had changed. And that change had a name. Lena. The court doors opened. Instant silence followed. Kael entered. Every person lowered their head. The Alpha King crossed the hall and took his place upon the throne. His golden eyes swept across the room. Nothing escaped his notice. Not the nervous nobles. Not the whispering servants. And certainly not Selene. For a brief moment their eyes met. Selene forced a smile. Kael looked away. Unimpressed. The hearing began immediately. The lead investigator stepped forward. Your Majesty. Kael nodded. Proceed. The investigator unfolded several documents. The investigation regarding the theft of royal jewels has concluded. Silence deepened. People leaned forward. Waiting. Watching. The investigator continued. Multiple witnesses have been questioned. A pause. New evidence has been discovered. Another pause. The original accusations against Lena appear compromised. Shock moved through the room. Like a wave. People exchanged glances. Whispers erupted. Selene's stomach tightened. The investigator raised a hand. Silence returned. We will now hear testimony. The witness entered. A palace servant. Young. Nervous. Terrified. His hands shook visibly. Lena recognized him immediately. One of the servants who had worked near the royal treasury. The man bowed deeply. Then lifted his head. The investigator spoke first. State your name. The servant obeyed. Questions followed. Simple at first. Routine. Then gradually more serious. Finally the investigator asked the question everyone was waiting for. Do you know how the jewels reached Lena's room? The servant swallowed hard. His face turned pale. For a moment it seemed he might refuse. Then his eyes drifted toward Kael. Toward the throne. Toward absolute authority. And the truth finally emerged. Yes. The room froze. The investigator nodded. Explain. The servant closed his eyes briefly, gathering courage. Then spoke. I helped place them there. Gasps exploded throughout the court. Lena felt her breath catch. The servant continued quickly. I was ordered to. By whom? Silence. Heavy silence. The servant's entire body trembled. Then he answered. Lady Selene. The world seemed to stop. No one moved. No one breathed. No one spoke. Every eye turned toward Selene. The future lunar candidate sat frozen. Perfect composure finally shattered. No. The word escaped instantly. Cold. Sharp. Desperate. The servant lowered his head. It's true. Selene stood abruptly. You liar. The servant flinched. You were paid. No. You're inventing this. No. Fear filled his voice. But determination remained. She told us Lena was dangerous. The room erupted. Nobles whispered furiously. Servants exchanged shocked looks. Everything was unraveling. Fast. Far faster than Selene anticipated. Enough. Kael's voice cut through the chaos instantly. Silence returned. Absolute silence. The Alpha King looked toward the investigator. Continue. Additional witnesses entered. One after another. Each testimony revealed another piece of the truth. Money exchanged hands. Orders delivered secretly. Evidence planted intentionally. Lies repeated deliberately. The entire scheme slowly emerged before the kingdom. And every new revelation pointed toward the same person. Lady Selene. By the fifth witness, denial became impossible. By the sixth, panic appeared openly on Selene's face. By the seventh, even her allies began distancing themselves. No one wanted to stand beside a sinking ship. Especially not when Kael was watching. Lena listened in stunned silence. The truth was finally visible. Everything she had endured. Every insult. Every accusation. Every moment of humiliation. None of it had been her fault. For years she had blamed herself whenever people treated her badly. Believed she somehow deserved it. Believed she simply wasn't enough. Now she understood something painful. She had never been the problem. The realization nearly brought tears to her eyes. Across the room, Kael noticed immediately. He always noticed. The sight made his chest tighten unexpectedly. Because he understood that expression. He understood what it felt like to carry blame that never belonged to you. The final witness stepped forward. An older servant. A woman who had worked inside the palace for decades. She bowed respectfully. Then delivered the final blow. I saw Lady Selene personally instruct the servants. Silence followed. Complete. Utter. Final. The investigator turned toward the throne. Your Majesty. No further explanation was necessary. The truth had spoken for itself. Kael slowly stood. The room felt smaller instantly. More intense. More dangerous. Every person watched him. Waiting. The Alpha King looked first toward Lena. Then toward Selene. His expression revealed nothing. Yet somehow everyone understood. Judgment had arrived. Lena. The sound of her name startled her. She stepped forward carefully. Yes, Your Majesty. Kael's gaze never left hers. The charges against you are dismissed. Her breath caught. The words felt unreal. Dreamlike. Impossible. The Alpha King continued. You are innocent. The room erupted. Cheers. Gasps. Whispers. Applause. The reaction spread through the hall like wildfire. Lena stood frozen. Unable to move. Unable to think. Innocent. One word. One simple word. Yet it changed everything. Tears filled her eyes. This time she didn't hide them. Because for the first time in her life, justice had found her. Kael watched quietly. Then his attention shifted toward Selene. And the atmosphere changed instantly. Warmth disappeared. The room grew cold. Dangerous. Selene understood immediately. The truth had reached its destination. And now consequences were coming. For the first time since entering the court, fear appeared openly in her eyes. Real fear. Because she finally realized something. The game was over. And she had lost. But desperation is a dangerous thing. And desperate people rarely surrender peacefully. As guards slowly approached her position, Selene's mind raced. Searching. Planning. Calculating. One final chance. One final move. One final opportunity to seize control. Her gaze drifted across the room. Toward Lena. Toward Ash. And suddenly, an idea formed. A terrible idea. A reckless idea. But perhaps her last opportunity. Very slowly, Selene smiled. A small smile. Barely noticeable. Yet somehow it sent a chill through Kael. Because he recognized that expression. It was the look of someone who had stopped caring about consequences. The look of someone willing to destroy everything. And everyone. The Alpha King's instincts screamed a warning. But before he could act, Selene took a single step backward. Then another. Then another. Toward the exit. Toward freedom. Toward the next phase of her plan. The guards moved instantly. But she was already running. The court exploded into chaos. People shouted. Guards gave chase. Nobles scrambled aside. And in the middle of the confusion, Selene disappeared beyond the palace doors. Kael's expression darkened immediately. Because deep down, he already knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. And somewhere outside the palace walls, a desperate villain had just become far more dangerous than before. The truth had finally won. But the final battle for Lena's future was only beginning.